Hello and welcome to the Comicspiracy, episode number 155 for the week of April 21st, 2014. My name is Ryan Higgins, who is here with me this week.
Brock Sigger.
And Charlie.
Small podcast this week, our small crew this week. We're off to an early start. Hopefully get this episode done with, other than our normal time of like 9 o'clock at night. I like to get this thing wrapped up and put to bed nice and early. Before we start, I have to issue an apology for last week's episode of the Comicspiracy podcast. We do very little editing on this podcast. Usually not really necessary. I'll bleep out random things from time to time or cut them out. But I generally try to not edit because we normally know what we're talking about. Last week, however, Brock maybe just...
I let slip.
You let slip a fairly large spoiler out of nowhere for the most recent episode of Game of Thrones, HBO's Game of Thrones, and while never intended for that episode, for that comment to actually make it, as about a third of you, we caught it in the morning because someone commented on it, and I was like, holy shit, and I went down and I deleted the episode. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, congratulations, you got the fixed version. Now, if you're about the 1/3 of the audience and maybe heard that other version, we want to apologize again. I was just very late getting in that week. We didn't go through the editing. I didn't get to edit everything out, and obviously missed that. So
sorry for my slip up.
Yeah, and you apologize to Charlie too because he hadn't watched the episode.
Charlie.
And you just dropping bombs.
Ironically, until you responded, I wasn't sure if Brock was just completely trolling, letting you say fake spoiler.
No. So we are not going to talk about. So I got a number of emails and messages about this online. So for everyone that we did spoil stuff for, I hopefully you've since watched the episodes. And I do greatly apologize. And we will, whether I have to edit something out or we will take better care at not spoiling stuff like that in the future, especially just completely out of nowhere. I mean, if we're like, hey, we're going to talk about Winter Soldier, you've been warned, we're going to talk about Winter Soldier. But something like that, I mean, that's kind of nowhere, so that shouldn't be on the podcast. So, again, I wanted to apologize to everyone for that. But yeah, we got
hopefully a bunch of Twitter questions.
We got a bunch of Twitter questions, and I suppose I should also talk about this and get this out of the way because I'm sure Brock will bring this up and want to tease me about it or something here.
Why would I tease you about it?
Because that's the type of guy you are.
No, I wouldn't tease you about it.
This past week, thanks to a customer, a good friend of the podcast, Andrew, among other things I was doing in the Los Angeles, Orange County area this past week, I went back to the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And this is part of a long planned out event in which part of the end result was me proposing to my longtime girlfriend, Leanne.
I think the word everyone was looking for was finally.
So I wanted to double, triple, quadruple thank Andrew for helping me with all this stuff at Disneyland. He's an employee there, so that was awesome. And yeah, just wanted to kind of put that out there. She had thrown a fabulous little surprise birthday party, which you two both attended, and Bryce and Toby as well, who aren't here this week. But so I was like, while she was doing that, I was like, the secrets you guys have been hiding from me, you don't know my secret.
Well, you were really good. You were sneaky about it. I mean, Tuesday before you left, you were asking me about that PhotoPass thing with Disneyland. And I was kind of like, why are you asking me about that? You kind of gave me crap for doing it for my own family. Why are you even asking me about it? I wasn't
giving you crap. I was just like, man, so I was like, that's expensive. So what's the deal with it?
But now you know what the deal with it is. It's so much easier. And they're nicer pictures.
No, they're really nice. Yeah, they're nice. They're nice. So yeah, good times. So
do we have a date yet?
Nah.
Another 13 years and we'll have it?
Next year, probably. I mean, we've talked about something like our existing anniversary already, so just to continue that.
When is that again?
It's in September. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this is a comic book podcast, not a love podcast. There's no love in comic books. There's only hate and bile and
retconning.
And retconning and angriness. And there's none of that in marriage. So... Well,
any event, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, congrats,
thank you, Charlie.
We are very happy for you.
Thank you, everyone. Well, let's get some of these questions here.
First Twitter question: how is it to propose? Were you scared?
No. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, there's nerves when you do it.
Yeah, definitely. Once it was over, it was like, phew.
Like, that's
all right, that's done. It's been a long few months. It's been a long few months sitting on that ring. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. This is from Mitchell. Brooks, good buddy. Mitchell.
Mitch.
Who's asking?
Place an order because I figure you're fiending.
I got to repay that ring now. So, yeah, definitely place an order. Mr. Mitchell, it says, Channing Tatum may play Gambit. Do we like that choice? This is a rumor, not a rumor. I think he came out and was talking about wanting to play Gambit a week or two ago.
Yeah.
I don't think this was like backed from anything serious. I think it was just this kind of, hey, wouldn't this be fun? That'd be awesome. I totally think he could fit the part. Maybe
grows hair a little long.
Yeah, he's maybe
thin down a little bit.
He's maybe a bit dude bro.
Not so bulky and beefed up.
Yeah, he would. In a rare case, he would have to lose some weight, but he's not. Gambit's not like some ripped guy. But
see, this question,
has to see if he can pull off an accent.
Yeah. The problem is this question comes when Toby's not on.
Yeah. Toby's, I'm sure, got his. I'm sure there's some guy from The Wire that Toby loves that would be perfect as Gambit, and let's see. Stefano's got a couple questions here. Let's read these guys. With fans dreading the number one death and rebirth cycle of books, it must be asked, how do comics sustain readers from number 1 to number 1,000? Especially if you're a fan of Marvel and DC these days, they are full-born in the belief that a renumbered number 1 is the best way to have sales on a title, where fans and retailers alike have said that is extremely short-sighted. It does nothing. It bumps a number 1 with variants, but you can throw variants on any old issue and have a bunch of extra sales if you really want to. Comics sustain readers from number 1 to 1,000 by having good writing, good art, good characters, good storylines.
Well, I mean,
not gimmicks.
Even having like something that's not maybe the best story arc, you're still going to have readership that kind of sticks with the title. And if people come back to it, they're more apt to go dig up those issues and find those issues to kind of make that kind of a complete set. So it's not initially, they're not buying it initially, they're doing it on the secondary market, but...
Batman Year One didn't need a miniseries. Batman Hush didn't need a miniseries. John's taking over JSA didn't need a miniseries. Brubaker and Bendis, when they started on Daredevil, that didn't need a new number 1. I'm okay with relaunches and new. If it is a complete shift, a complete change, there's a good amount of time between the series. Yeah. The series is naturally canceled due to low sales, and then you want to bring it back. Totally understand.
See, I always go back to Green Lantern Rebirth because they intentionally ended the previous run on Green Lantern. They decided, okay, we're going to put an end to Kyle's time with basically carrying the Green Lantern book. We're going to set that down, then we're going to do Rebirth, and then we're going to relaunch. I had no problem with that because it kind of had a direct story dictation where this is really a new beginning for the book.
Yeah. What you end up with that, it was just a case of DC had, it had been many years. DC hadn't rebooted most of their series since Crisis. So these books were all in the 200-300s. Again, if you want to do it every 20, 30 years, sure. Yeah. But like we talked about last week, Suicide Squad and Teen Titans getting renumbered and rebooted seems pointless.
I completely agree with that. To me, what it really comes down to is if a book got canceled and you shelved the character or the book for 5 years and you want to give it another try, sure, give it a new number 1.
Right. Well, all new X Factor, Punisher, these books are selling exactly what they were selling to me or less. Right about the same. In Punisher, it would have dropped because Rucka left the book, but it's still selling about the same as Rucka's. It's not off by that much. And all new X Factor selling exactly the same as X Factor. They got a nice little bump for number 1, I'm sure, but I guess that's all they need.
Well, I mean, but there's also the flip side to that because I mean, a lot of books now are, instead of ending the series numbering through, they end on a mini series. Like Unwritten is going with that Unwritten Apocalypse to finish off the unwritten stuff, and I know they're going to do that with Harbinger. They're going to finish off Harbinger with like a mini-series.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, though. I don't see that very often.
But, I mean...
Not to end a book. Maybe to launch a new one.
Yeah, but there's a few out there right now, but one thing like even I mean, American Vampire has just been renumbered, but they changed it and called it something else. But of course, they're dealing with, a different time period in the mythos that they're working with. So it's not like it's we're renumbering just to renumber. They're kind of
I'm sitting here.
Story flow.
To me, that's a spin-off. That's not a.
I'm sitting here trying to think of all the books that Marvel relaunched with new number ones that, for all intents and purposes, are the same as what they started off before. Wolverine, Daredevil, Captain Marvel, Wolverine and the X-Men, X-Factor, Thunderbolts. None of these books picked up any extra readers. A couple of them dropped readers, and that's to be expected with a creative team shift or possibly a jumping off point, which are these new number ones. But yeah, I mean, you want to have all new X-Men. Sure. You want to relaunch Uncanny X-Men when Bendis comes on? Okay, I'll give you that. But none of these other books, to me, saw any difference in change. And I don't expect the DC ones to change either.
I don't feel like we're nitpicking when they did the big shift after Bendis left Avengers, and like they had...
That's understandable.
They had very large shifts amongst all the different titles. So yes, it made a huge sense. Brubaker's off Cap, we'll relaunch Cap. All that. I'm not really criticizing that. It's just the relaunches they've been doing recently are literally we're just throwing in a breakpoint and then continuing the story. It's
that was like Brubaker's, run on Cap for a long time, and then it's like, it went to Cap and Bucky, and then they relaunched Cap with Brubaker, and then he wrote it for a little while, then they canceled it, did the all-new Marvel Now version.
Well...
that's where it's kind of like, well, why did you renumber that last few?
See, I have a hard time calling that kind of stuff cancellations just because it's just we're relaunching the book. Like if you cancel something, it means it will not be coming back next month.
Yeah. Stefano also asks, with Batman Eternal underway and more and more weekly books eventually starting up, what do you guys think needs doing to sustain a weekly comic series? We actually did get some news about this. I'll talk about this very briefly. That the Earth 2 World's End is officially the third is officially the third weekly series for the New 52 titles. And it's weird that you have
in addition to
Future's End. I believe so, yeah. It's in addition to Earth 2. So you have Future's End and World's End. There was a comment on Dan Didio's Facebook page, though. I believe it was his Facebook page? I believe it was his Facebook page. Where he said that Batman Eternal, Future's End, and Earth 2 World's End will all be ending in March of 2015, leaving April open for something else. Maybe, as suggested here, the 30th anniversary of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Maybe some sort of World's End, Future's End. Does that mean a reboot to the old 52 stuff? The old, who knows, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously, huge speculation, but the fact that all three of those books, and at that point, roughly a fifth of DC's output is ending in one specific month, meaning Batman Eternal is going to be a year. Future's End is going to be 11 months, and World's End will be 9 months, I think, 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
That clearly something major is happening at the end of that. Now, there was a lot of talk about post Forever Evil that something big was going to happen, but I don't know. Clearly, we'll find out more as it gets closer to April of next year. But sounds like DC's already planning big for next year. But
that's okay. We're already starting to see glimpses of post Forever Evil.
Yeah.
Batgirl 30. What was the other one this week?
Pandora.
But and that's it's coming in 2 weeks, I think. Is it next? No, a couple weeks, 3 weeks. It's coming
after
soon.
All the delays. I stopped marking it on my calendar.
Yeah, I think it's 21st of May.
21st of May. That's like 4 weeks out.
4 weeks. Is it end of May? It's not end of April. It's end of May, right? At this point,
I think so.
Mid May. So anyway,
so we're going to get a lot more books.
Yeah,
we're going to get the 31s.
But for what Stefano says about sustaining a weekly series for you guys, other than clearly then good writing, good arc of character, what does it take?
clear direction.
What's made the good ones succeed and the bad ones fail?
I feel like it just takes clear direction. Like the thing I liked about, and I realize not everybody felt this way about Countdown and stuff, but I like the fact that Dini was sort of the producer of Countdown, and yes, he had a lot of other writers working with him on it, but it kind of crafted a very specific tale that had tons of throwbacks to the Kirby era, and I really appreciate all of that. And I actually like that one a bit better than 52, just because 52 I kind of felt was plagued by I'm really into this story arc, but not as into this story arc and that kind of stuff.
But, I mean, I think Trinity was the most focused of the three, because they kind of knew where they were going, but it had the worst story. I think Countdown fell somewhere in the middle. I think. Well,
Countdown had I remember reading Countdown weekly, and I enjoyed it. I think there was a good chunk of it I enjoyed when it first started, and in the middle it was really solid. But by the end of it, it kind of just it didn't really. For me, it kind of fell a little apart towards the end.
The only thing that bothered me about the end is they had the Death of the New Gods miniseries going on that was kind of contradicting certain things within Countdown and
right, and Final Crisis.
The cohesion behind a lot of that stuff just wasn't up to par, but.
Well, I mean, I remember reading 52 because I got in a little late on it and had to read it in chunks. So I think that the weekly title, it's one of those titles that you kind of, if you read it weekly, you're going to get something out of it, but you might get a little bit more if you read it in chunks. So it's kind of a little bit more of a. Yeah, you get it weekly, so it's kind of still fresh in your mind. You don't have the 1 month delay.
My issue with 52 kind of comes down to the fact that even though it was a weekly comic, it felt like it was 4 different comics that happened to kind of exist within the same comic, because you get an issue that would mainly focus on the Black Adam storyline and would throw in a scene or two with the Question storyline or whatnot. But that issue was really the Black Adam issue, and then the next issue would focus on another one. So it just felt like if you splice those together correctly, you had this is our Black Adam miniseries, this is our Elongated Man miniseries, this is our
let's see.
But you should read.
But I'm liking Internal so far.
You should read 52 just to be introduced to weird random characters.
52 is great.
Yeah,
I think 52 was kind of. It was so crazy. They didn't know where they were going with it. They started in one direction and kind of found their way through it. And I think, to me, even though maybe the least focused, that ended up having the best story, because it wasn't like they were able to maneuver and change. Where I think Trinity and Countdown suffered from, well, we have an endpoint right to it, and when it kind of meandered and they didn't know what to do, they couldn't just turn on a dial or turn on a dime. I think they couldn't with 52.
And they had a lot of those one shots, the Search for Ray Palmer issues that were kind of just, you would have to pick it up that week that it came out, and kind of read that as in tandem with that week's issue.
Now, the other side of this is I actually was a much bigger fan of it when they did the Brightest Day 2. The Generation Lost and
Generation
the Brightest Day. I mean, the way they handled that, I actually liked a little bit more, just because both became very worth reading to me in the end, and I like the way they handled that a lot. But Eternal is awesome so far.
Yeah, so far it's good.
We have a question here from Eric, who says he's a regular listener to the Geek Box. But he was wondering if we ever talked about our opinions of AMC's Comic Book Men.
Oh, God.
Would you guys like to make some statements about Comic Book Men?
Some more Twitter statements?
Honestly, Comic Book Men is the perfect example of a show that I went out of my way to watch the first episode of. Never officially said, I'm done with it, but never watched another episode.
Yeah.
I have occasionally watched episodes when they're on. My fiance likes them because she's kind of like, oh, do you know about that? Oh, do you know about that? But as for the most part, the show, I mean, it's all scripted. I mean, they know who's coming in,
right,
and what they're selling and all that stuff. So it's not really a true representation of the. Do you guys buy comics?
No, I made the joke on Twitter, but it's totally apt. a real show about comic book men would be me sitting around, being on the phone with Diamond for half an hour trying to call in some damages and shortages.
Yeah. While I'm in the back sorting back stock.
To me, if you really want to capture what makes a comic shop great, it's the people who hang out on Wednesday and just talk. Or like when I work here Sundays, yesterday, one of the good friends of the shop, Rafi, came in and he and I just talked for a good chunk of time. And you build this community amongst your customers and stuff, and you get such a finite viewpoint on comic book men where you're just seeing employees and you're just seeing the random people coming in to sell stuff.
But they're not random is the point.
Well, no, but my point basically is the way they present it is a very limited part of a comic shop, which neither one of those things is what I love about comic shops.
It's one of those things where, like, if you have somebody coming in and they're selling some really nice key issues and you buy them up and stuff like that, it's for you, it's nice to kind of have those few people that you know that are going to appreciate seeing those come in the store. You know what I mean? Like, and talk about them and say, oh, and have a discussion about it. Whereas it's like here, it's like the two people interact, that, you know, behind the counter, either side of the counter, and then it's like we exchange money and we're done.
And even beyond that, one of the things that I personally love when Ryan gets in a collection or something is he knows the people who shop here well enough to go, you know, I know exactly who's going to want to look at this chunk of them first. And you kind of have that built-in relationship where you can see that excitement. It's not just about bringing in the new books. It's sort of like, you know, I know the person who's been searching for chunks of this run or that kind of stuff.
What's funny about all these shows, like, you know, Comic Book Men, like Pawn Stars, Storage Wars, you know, all these shows where you kind of see one side of it. You don't see the other side of it. Like,
well, none of it's accurate or real, which is the downfall at the end of the day. I always say, whenever a new season of Comic Book Men comes in, I get people coming in trying to sell me a bunch of garbage because it's like, oh, well, this garbage sold in Comic Book Men and they said it's valuable. It's like, yeah, but they're missing the nuances that no one cares about other than us. Yeah. So they're not going to talk about what makes something valuable, really valuable on that show. They're not going to discuss.
They're not going to discuss why Squirrel Girl first appearance is more than Speedball's first appearance.
Sure, but but they just end up being very very like surface level of what goes into the comic shop aspect. I mean, you know, I love working here, but a store about the way a comic shop really runs would be kind of boring. It'd be a lot of people sitting around kind of having the same discussions every week about stuff. You know, a lot of my customers got their opinions pretty set in stone. So, you know, I know what conversations I'm going to have with most of these guys coming in. And, you know, it's a great job. I love it. But it's, you know, it's work. I'm vacuuming. I'm sorting money. I'm doing paperwork. I'm paying bills. I'm talking to Diamond. I'm doing orders. You know, that's what the show would be. I'm
moving heavy boxes. I'm sorting through books. I'm putting books in order. It's not. Yeah.
That show is not representative of an actual comic book store. So, but, you know, whatever. Whatever.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's kind of cool to see some of the stuff that comes through, you know, on the show, because there's some oddities that I'm like, that's pretty interesting, you know, to at least give information about it. But, you know,
there are a couple episodes I watched. There was a couple books the guys brought in, and I don't remember if the guy way overpaid for it or way underpaid for it. I just remember there being some. I was like, I don't know. This is giving a false value to these. And kind of like I'm sure like that. What's that one where they do all the? Oh God, what is it called now? I'm totally blanking. Where they take the Antique Roadshow. I'm sure it's the same sort of thing where people that actually deal in antiques probably look at that show and they're like, this is bullshit, because they're telling them a bunch of the stuff that this stuff's all worthless or worth way more than the guys.
No, I will say this much: the Batcave episode was pretty cool.
Yeah, but stuff like that doesn't actually happen.
Where they went to the guy's Batcave,
right? Stuff like that doesn't actually happen. Yeah, if the show was about let's follow Kevin Smith and his buddies around the country as they go and look at these awesome collections, that'd be a cool show.
Yes, I'd watch that.
That'd be neat.
Hey, no, let's not give them the credit. Let's do it. Let's start our own.
We may be as bad as Kevin Smith, but we're not Kevin Smith.
You have to stay here and run the store, but Charlie and I'll do it.
All right, Joe on Twitter asks.
What's up, Joe?
He actually doesn't ask. He just states.
Oh, dang.
Worst alternate costumes. I'm assuming he's asking us. He's not just telling us that we have the worst alternate costumes, but I'm assuming he's asking us.
Current? Old?
Anything. Whatever.
Oh, God.
You know, I actually never thought about it until I was listening to the Joe Quesada episode, speaking of Kevin Smith, of the Fat Man on Batman podcast, where he was talking about their intentional design of Azrael was for it to get stupider and stupider every kind of few issues as he added more garbage on it as a way to kind of make it so ridiculous looking that at the end, when Batman finally just comes back, it's because he's built so much garbage on his costume that the traditional form is the best. And I remember that happening in the books, but I never thought about it that way, and I thought that was very clever. So Azrael's a great, awful costume. It is an awful costume, but it's great. It's just, I love all the crap he has on there.
So are we going for the worst ones, or are we going for the worst that you think are great?
Well,
I was going to say, I didn't consider it the worst costume.
But I get what he was talking about, though.
Worst costume change? Ugh.
Penance.
Yeah, that's your top one, right?
Yeah, that was pretty god-awful.
Man, there's got to be some bad ones, though. I hate the Iron Spider with the legs.
That's another great
costume.
one.
I hated that costume. I really did. You know, I'm okay with a lot of the Spider-Man alternate costumes. I kind of like that old Web of Spider-Man armored costume he had. You know,
that bulky one.
Bagman's funny. There's a bunch of ones, but that Iron Spider that just rubbed me wrong.
The first New 52 Power Girl costume before they went back.
Yeah, that was
horrible.
Bad.
Well, the one without the window.
Here's the actual answer. Every Power Girl costume but the original. Every time they change her. Black Canary as well. Almost every time they really kind of tweak or alter that costume, it just doesn't end up right. Black Canary's.
I thought they've done a good job with Zatanna's look. Kind of keeping it fairly consistent.
It's a case where it's actually been okay. There's been some bad ones.
Yes.
There's always bad costume redesigns. I mean, look at the 80s and 90s. There's some terrible redesigns in there.
I'm personally not a big fan of Cyclops' new costume.
See, the X over the face.
The ruby fabric. Apparently,
that's just what's his face's art. I think.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing because for the most part, even some of the costumes I had a super hard time getting used to. Now I kind of look back on because of the time period and whatnot they represented. It's just like, well, that's.
Can I say that Guy Gardner needs to shave that handlebar mustache?
What about the hair?
It's bad. I don't know who thought. Yeah, let's try for the biker crowd with Guy Gardner. Shave it. I don't need the bowl cut. But shave that mustache, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, I know some people that don't like Harley's new looks.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be the first to admit I don't dislike Harley's new look, but I love the classic look so much more.
People dislike that for other reasons than just being a bad costume.
Would you consider Wonder Woman's debate between, a bikini, boy shorts, or pants?
Nah, it's all the same. I don't hate her Odyssey costume. I don't love it, but I didn't hate it. I actually like the pants were okay. There's plenty of bad ones. Well, we got a few other kind of big things to talk about this week.
Wait, there are big things this week?
There's a couple.
Oh, wow. They snuck in there.
And I got like a question too. I'll read those at the end here. There was a brand new Batman Beyond short featuring Kevin Conroy.
And Will Freddy.
I have not had a chance to see this. I heard it was premiered at WonderCon. Oh! WonderCon. How did I not talk about WonderCon?
Because it was that memorable of an experience.
Well, Charlie, talk about this Batman. We'll do these two things, and then I'll talk about WonderCon.
So the Batman Beyond short was just awesome because I love Batman Beyond, and they got Will Freddy back to do the voice of Terry and Kevin Conroy to do the voice of Bruce, obviously. And they never spelled it out, but I would just naturally... The basic idea of it is Terry gets back to the Batcave and Bruce is lying there on the floor after being attacked, saying that he got attacked by himself. And then basically a robot Batman comes out and fights Terry and they defeat the robot Batman. But then he didn't come alone, so they get to show all the different versions of Batman robots, basically. So you get like the Dark Knight Batman as a robot and the various iterations. It was really, really cool. I definitely appreciate it just because, as I said, love Batman Beyond, love the fact that they got the voice cast. And of course, it's a great nod to the 75th anniversary of Batman because you get to see all those different versions of Batman, which is awesome.
Sweet. I need to watch this.
Yeah,
I need to watch it.
Very, very cool.
Maybe you can actually post a link in the comment or in the little blurb.
Yeah, they're up there. They also had so the next animated movie, Batman and Son, comes out soon. Is it this week? Next week? It's really soon.
Oh no, it's super soon, but I think it's like 2 weeks away.
Is it 2 weeks? Okay. Yeah. So they did reveal the trailer for the next movie, Batman: Assault on Arkham, or as the title should be called, The Suicide Squad. This is a straight up Suicide Squad movie, and Batman will apparently be in a few minutes of it. It's based in the Arkham Asylum.
Voiced by Kevin Conroy.
Right.
Just have to say.
It's based in the Arkham Asylum, the Arkham video game universe, but this is a Suicide Squad movie. The squad's in it. They look awesome. For people that are fans of it, Amanda Waller is her traditional comic book look, meaning very heavy, which is funny because in the Arkham game she's not. So it's kind of weird that they would go to the more traditional comic book version that I know a lot of people are fans of.
Maybe this
including myself.
Maybe this is set before the Arkham game, before she had gastric bypass.
Maybe. So,
I'll actually be buying this on release day.
I don't have the full cast in front of me here, but I know Harley Quinn is in it in a nice medium between her traditional costume and her new costume. So again, kind of splitting the difference there a little bit, which actually I like this. It's a black and red pants, one leg red, one leg black, and then flip flop on the top. So it's kind of a take on the original.
It's a throwback to the old costume.
Yeah, it's a little less covering as the original, but more covering than the current one. So
I'm honestly assuming to a degree, just based on the trailer, we might get a couple of renditions of Harley's costume in it.
Maybe.
So.
Captain Boomerang's in it. Killer Shark.
I don't know. I'll have to see about the Killer Shark. I wasn't too keen.
He's a little different of a take.
Well, it
looks like Jaws. Yeah, from James Bond. But that's fine. I don't care about that.
No,
that
it's not.
Bother me.
Killer Shark from the last Suicide Squad was
Killer Shark was awesome in Squad, but
he ate Yo-Yo. That was awesome.
But I don't mind this version. Killer Frost is in it, classic Firestorm villain, and also a member of the Suicide Squad.
Hey, maybe Firestorm will actually make an appearance in something.
That'd be awesome. He'll just die right away. And then I believe who else is in it? Did they show Rick Flag? I can't remember if they showed him. I think Bronze Tiger's in it. So yeah, it looks like Black. This is Amanda Waller, Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Killer Frost, Black Spider, King Shark, and Captain Boomerang. So, and it is Troy Baker doing the voice of the Joker, who's done him more recently. So very, very, very cool stuff. Very excited for that. That should be out. If this comes out May, it should be September roughly, because they're doing. We were talking about this before the podcast. I believe they're doing 3 a year now instead of the 2 a year for these DC animated movies.
Yeah,
and they've been knocking them out of the park with these movies.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't been getting all of them. I want to watch them, but I need to go back and pick them up so I can watch them with my son when he's a little bit older. He's going to be 3. He's going to be 3 soon.
Yeah. I was going to say you should just watch them. When they first started these, I tried to sit down with my son to watch Superman Doomsday. And I had to stop it in the beginning.
It's not good. It's not good. Well, since we don't have a ton more to talk about here, I'll talk about WonderCon for a while. For those that know, WonderCon originally started in Oakland. I don't believe there was any place before Oakland. I'm pretty sure the first WonderCon was in Oakland. It's a little 25 years, a little past 25 years now at this point. So it's been around for a while. It got bought out by San Diego Comic-Con, or Comic-Con International. It was moved to San Francisco. Not sure if it moved first or was bought first. I think it moved to San Francisco and then was bought by Comic-Con International. I don't know the timeline on that. But I've been going to this since I moved out here to California. Charlie, were you going? Because I would have been.
I didn't go when it was in Oakland, but I started going when it moved to San Francisco.
Okay, because I moved here in '93, and I went to at least because it moved to San Francisco in 2000. I believe.
Sounds right.
So I would have gone to probably 5 or 6 of them out of the 6 or 7 in Oakland. I went to it almost every year. And then I didn't go the very first year I was in San Francisco, but I went every other year I was in San Francisco, and especially for a while it was on my birthday, so that was awesome. And then I moved to Anaheim a few years ago, and I've not had the opportunity to go.
It moved, in 2011?
This is the 3rd year, so 2012 was the first year down there.
Yeah, because I went in 2010 to WonderCon was my first time. I wasn't able to go the next year because I think I had to work to cover.
And then they moved.
Yeah.
So I went down this year. I went on Friday and Sunday.
Didn't you go last year?
No, I didn't. It's been in there for 2 years. I didn't go either of those 2 years. I wasn't around it. Wasn't able to go. I wanted to go. I had tickets. I just wasn't able to go. So, I'm not sure what I thought about the con. It sold out. I believe the numbers are something like 50,000 people, which is a hell of a lot of people. Yeah. Especially, let me give you a little. Let me give you a little story here. So, my mom lives about 5 minutes from Disneyland, which is about 7 minutes from the Anaheim Convention Center. It's right down the street. I can almost, if I stood on a ladder, I may be able to see the entrance to the park, and just past the park is the convention center. So, very, very close. We left it opened at noon on Friday. I figured if we get there 12:15 or so and just walk in, because the line will be already in by that point. We left 12:10 maybe. We got parking 1:45.
Yeah, I saw you post a picture about that on Twitter.
Yeah. No, this has been every year. People have complained about the parking. However, this year I understand was
worse.
Was on another level. Not only being Easter weekend, they, to the best of my knowledge, closed off all the actual convention parking because we basically went almost 360 degrees around the convention center because we got shuttled off to the right down some side streets. But the problem is everyone is being shuttled off these side streets. So you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars at these traditional one-lane turn lights, all trying to get into the convention center parking, of which there was none. We had to shuttle back around and go into the Disney overflow parking, which also meant people trying to turn against a major intersection, forming 2 lanes, trying to turn into one turn lane, going into this parking, while a traditional turn from the other side is also trying to shuttle in hundreds and hundreds of cars. We basically said, look, and Bleeding Cool even put me on their thing, as part of the parking apocalypse, was that if I was like, no, if we are not turning in parking, we're done. We're going home. Like, F this. This is awful. I've never seen anything like this. We, on Wednesday, Thursday, previous days, obviously not as busy, but we drove right in the Disney parking, parked, you're there, it's organized, done. This was a clusterfuck of epic proportions. Like, I was like, cool, I'll watch the DC Entertainment panel at 1, I'll go do a thing for a few hours. By the time we actually got to the door of the convention center, it was probably 2. I stood outside, ate awesome food truck food, hung out with a few of our friends, Seth, who's been on this podcast, and our friend Mark, who's been on Geekbox a few times. And I think I got to the convention maybe around 3:30. And by that point, I was just like, so I was already in a mood, right? So convention's busy. Very, very busy. A lot of cosplayers outside, tons of people everywhere. Some great religious people outside with giant signs saying we're all going to hell. That was exciting.
Anybody have the Galactus is nigh?
No, but man, I need to start bringing stuff there to those because it's always fun. And I heard a rumor that there was almost a rumble on Saturday. That there was a lot. These guys are yelling at people when you're walking by. It's actually, they were pretty aggressive.
They're always very active at Comic-Con in San Diego also. So.
Yeah, but I heard on Saturday there was some punches were thrown and it definitely got heated. So finally go in. Finally get to kind of walk around the convention center. It's a classic WonderCon, and I saw this up here in San Francisco all the time. Half of the convention floor is barren and empty, and there's nothing there. They just shuttle everything into this half of the floor.
Yeah.
Why? It was wall to fucking wall, people. You couldn't move. It was so busy on Friday. Even at 3 o'clock, it was packed. And there's this whole other side just empty.
Yeah, it's
why?
That when I went in 2010,
it's all connected. They literally have to put up a wall that separates it, and it's empty.
Yeah, no, it's when I went in 2010, the space, like when you want to check in, there was just this huge open space of nothingness.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but then they cram everything into the center. So when you're trying to go through the center of the convention, you're in this huge clusterfuck, bumping into people and all this stuff. And then you go over to Artist Alley, and it's kind of like, it's a little less crowded, but you don't want to go back that direction because there's just so many people. And when it was in San Francisco, the stairs would dump right into this main thoroughfare, and that's where they crammed everything. And I'm like, why aren't you spreading stuff out? Why isn't Marvel over here and DC's over here? And it's like they cram everything together. There's a lot of poor planning, at least with.
Apparently, it's the same here as it was up in San Francisco because maybe it's cheaper to not have that third of the hall open, so they just jam everyone to the smaller section. But I tell you, prevents me from stopping at booths, prevents me from buying stuff. So I'm sure every vendor there did very, very well, but I think they could do better if they had more space.
Well, I know we worked Big Wow last year, and they were at least decently spread out with things. Like their Artist Alley was kind of in the middle.
And this year, Big Wow is also going to have both halls. They're going to have both sections. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Nice.
So it's going to be should be about twice the size.
Nice.
So maybe this is just me because I'm on this side of the counter a lot. I see this stuff all the time. I can get all of it at any time and not at retail also, by the way. But, I'm going around the booths, going around Artist Alley. It's kind of the same people you always see. No real exclusives to talk about. Nothing really special. I got the WonderCon shirt. That's nice. It's a Wonder Woman shirt by Cliff Chang. That's cool. I got you your Sandman.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, comic, which I need to bring in tomorrow. But I'm going around. It's kind of the same people. They had a bunch of panels talking about nothing, announcing nothing. There was no news. Nothing exciting happened.
I was working Friday and Saturday, and I kept hitting refresh on Bleeding Cool and following Twitter and stuff.
No.
And there was nothing.
No.
It was just a whole bunch of boredom. The only thing that was memorable was before the con even opened on Friday, it was the big buzz is, Bryan Singer's not coming down because of the whole allegations and stuff like that. And it's
whatever.
You're just trying to get crap news, whatever.
No, there was no news at the con. The stuff they had there were like Salem, and they had some. They aired an episode of Teen Titans Go that then aired on Sunday or airs today.
Salem aired on Sunday night.
Yeah, so it's like the Hollywood stuff. There was nothing. I was like, man, all they need is just an Arrow panel. But Stephen Amell and a bunch of them were up in Toronto, I think. So
they were wrapping up.
No, they were at a convention. They were at a convention. Yeah, so there was.
I kind of wanted to go to the Batman panel if I had been there. I would have tried to get into
that was on Saturday, and I heard that was pretty cool. But again, it was just Kevin Smith and Jim Lee and a few guys talking about Batman.
Well,
again,
and Kevin Conroy
but there's
Bruce Timm.
But again, we are into this point now, so deep into these conventions where nothing really happens.
No, I agree with you. Nothing.
The panels
really.
are there to celebrate, not as a news source, which again I shouldn't be upset about because this is the way it's been for a long time. But I'm looking through the panel list and I'm like, all right, well, nothing here is interesting to me. The one panel, I was like, well, I guess I'll go to the DC panel of quote-unquote talent because they had no names of who anyone was going to be there, so I have no idea who even showed up, but I couldn't make it because of the thing. Kind of wandering around. All the guys selling comics are the same guys going to be at the small con here. It's the same guys are at every con in California. Mm-hmm. There's nothing there I need. It's a bunch of T-shirts from Superhero Hype and T-Fury and all that stuff. And a lot of guys selling those pop figures for $10 a piece. So, it's cool if you want to go buy stuff. But, I love going to conventions, but I always come out with the same realization at the end that this is just stuff I can get online all day long. And it kind of maybe I've just gone to too many of these things at this point where I just don't have that, burning passion that I used to for them.
I guess for me, part of the problem just has to do with the fact that when I go to a convention, I kind of need to feel like you're spending money to get through the door, meaning you have to recoup that money in either discounts on stuff that's hard to find, or interactions with people that you couldn't see otherwise. What always gets me about something like WonderCon when I go through the list of who's going to be there is it's like, okay, I'm not willing to pay that much just to go interact with that one person who I might be interested in.
They also had no signing schedule. DC had no open signing schedule. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Kevin Conroy signing at the DC booth. That would have been nice if they ever posted a schedule about it, but there's no schedule. Yeah. The DC booth had nothing. The Dark Horse booth had nothing. I mean, it's all just current stuff.
Yeah. Nothing. What's funny is I remember
it's all the same stuff.
I remember like WonderCon and San Diego and stuff, like, you know, they would have figures that like you two would get excited for and all this stuff. It's like those have gone to the wayside. Like there's nothing anymore.
It said WonderCon exclusive, and there was a Sandman variant cover.
Yeah,
which is not exclusive to WonderCon.
No. It basically becomes the quote unquote con exclusive season. Yeah. No, what kind of surprises me about all this a little bit is the last few years WonderCon was here. WonderCon was this sort of like beautiful amalgamation between...
But there was really good stuff.
Exactly. There
were some really big panels, lots of Hollywood stuff.
I mean, I went on Sunday, I believe, and it was like kind of more like family day. And I was like, whoa, well, okay, cool. But Paul Levitz was signing, but I knew he was coming, so I actually brought something for him to sign.
I mean, the last time I had gone to WonderCon, and all the cons I've ever seen DC, because Marvel doesn't do WonderCon, they had a signing schedule up, and I had to go ask one of the reps there, as my DC rep. I said, hey, what's up with the schedule? And he pulled out a piece of paper, and he's like, well, this is it, but I'm like, do they not have a signing schedule anywhere? It's like, maybe the app updates it, or he goes, it's probably on like the Twitter account or something. I'm like, but you didn't tell anyone beforehand. You don't know anyone afterhand. Like, this is weird. Yeah. So, you know, the stuff I bought there between Friday and Sunday was we bought a bunch of Disney pins because some store was, I guess they go to Frank and Sons every month too. You know, we were at Disneyland paying $10 for a pin like a fool, for like a sucker, and going around and doing some trading. And there's this guy sitting here blowing out discount pins for $3 a pop, all totally legit. So grabbed a bunch of those. Next time we hit up Disneyland, you know, next year or something, we'll got some trade stock. I bought those WonderCon shirts. My girlfriend bought a Legend of Zelda T-shirt, and I bought a Eggplant Wizard from Captain N original animation cell and hand painted background for $28. Nice.
Yeah, the only comic you bought was for me.
And the only thing I did there was stand in line for an hour at the Nintendo booth. I had no idea Nintendo was there. It's not mentioned anywhere online or in any sort of brochure or booth. I just walked in and I was like, holy shit, Nintendo. And I played Mario Kart 8 for, 20 minutes. Nice. That was pretty sweet. It's pretty awesome. A really annoying Asian lady was yelling at us the whole time, telling us that we're awesome at Mario Kart. And that was it. So I had nothing comic book related at this comic convention, which...
Except to get my
except for yours, yeah.
But that was like, walk up,
I got those WonderCon shirts anyway. But I mean, that is a comic convention these days. No comic book stuff. It's like, bunch of dealers selling books. Yep, got all these. Don't need them, don't want them. Already got them. You know? Like, I don't know. But 50,000 people can't be wrong. They sell out. They sold out every year. They sold it every day.
Well, I mean, I was flipping through some of the... I know you're not into it, but I was flipping through some of the cosplaying, like outfits and stuff like that.
Plenty of cosplayers everywhere.
Like, I mean, some of the detail on some of these that
9,000 denaries.
Some of the detail on these were really, really nice, and I was like, man, that's really cool that you put in that much effort and time and all that stuff. But again, it's like,
I'm not there to see cosplayers.
I saw the cosplayers online, dude. I didn't need to go see them in person.
Nope.
Yeah. I'm, I kind of... San Diego is what it is. It's big and giant and huge. I want to get to New York Comic Con. I want to get to Emerald City.
Yeah, I want to get to New York also.
WonderCon is caught in some weird middle ground where it can't be San Diego, but it doesn't have the pull for the big vendors.
Now, do you think it would have meshed or become something better up here if it was still up here?
I think so.
It was getting really good the last few years. They would have entire Cartoon Network panels. They had every year they had Clone Wars. They had some pretty big actual movies. They had a huge Green Lantern panel. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing like that down there this year.
I think, what was it? Was it Jared Pagan had seen Gary Oldman walking through with like a security, and he didn't he didn't want to approach him because he was like, "Oh, the security probably beat my ass." So he just said, "Hey, Gary," and Gary turned around like that and then walked away. But it's like,
you're next to Disneyland. Why is Marvel not there?
Yeah,
you're in LA, quote unquote LA. Why? What? Why? Why is there not? If you're just going to go full Hollywood con, well, why not? You're there. You're in Orange County. You're so close. It's closer than San Diego.
Well, that's the weird thing is
the Anaheim Convention Center is huge.
That's definitely the weird thing. I think they moved down there thinking they could do more, but I think in general, all they ended up doing was alienating a lot of the people who were not wanting to make 2 trips down to Southern California.
People are already planning to go to San Diego, so they're like, well, why the heck am I going 2 hours up or hour and a half, 40 minutes up to WonderCon? And the people that live there are like, why am I doing 2 things? Normally it's like I just do one thing and I'm done. Yeah. Because it's like if you come up to the Bay Area, there's things that they can do. Like people, artists and creators and stuff go to conventions to do the conventions, but they also go because they can take a little vacation and go see something in San Francisco or, go see something up in Seattle or go see something in New York, wherever these cons are. Well, it gives them an excuse to kind of get out, go to a place and maybe check out something while they're there. San Antonio, hey, I can check out the Alamo, right? But again, if you have 2 that are in such close proximity, and when is San Diego this year?
July.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3 months away.
Don't tell people in LA and Orange County and San Diego that they're in close proximity because they're not.
Oh yeah, I forgot. It's 400 different. They're completely separate worlds.
They are.
Well, any event.
Well, I'm happy to go to WonderCon. Maybe the parking just ruined my experience, and
It's funny you talk about the parking because the only thing we really have now is Big Wow, and the parking in downtown San Jose is already atrocious.
Oh, it is.
There's no parking anywhere. And it's like if Big Wow is going to be bigger this year, oh man, parking is going to be even worse.
Yeah, they have no.
And if they have that stupid, well, I mean it's not a stupid run, but if they schedule a marathon the same day, like they did last year, like
man,
so
that's okay. I'm looking forward to Big Wow.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe we should just take the VTA in this year.
That would be hard with 50 long boxes of comic books.
No, load in everything, right? But just like Saturday and Sunday, just take the VTA in.
The only thing worse than public parking in San Jose is the public transit. Yeah. Well, I'm going to read 1 or 2 emails here since we got a few things to talk about here.
Emails, wow.
It's actually asks a question about Comic Book Men. So we were just talking about Comic Book Men a few minutes ago. This is from Brian. Says, on Comic Book Men, these are all from a few weeks ago, so catch up on a few of these. He says, on Comic Book Men, whenever a customer comes in with a particularly rare or unusual item to sell, they call it Rob Bruce, who is basically their pop culture expert with a lot of obscure knowledge and connections. I was wondering, do you guys have your own Rob Bruce to help you price out or verify the authenticity of certain items? I know you guys aren't as memorabilia-oriented as a secret stash. Maybe you guys have all the info you need. Thanks for a great show. We don't deal in memorabilia, so right, that is kind of the difference there. It's rare that I see something that isn't just a more traditional comic. Sometimes trade paperbacks, occasionally cards, things like that. But it's rare. We don't deal in any movie props, or we don't deal in any movie posters. Things like that.
Toys and stuff.
Yeah. I just don't see any of that stuff. But you still have to know what you're talking about, especially with comic books. First prints, you have to know conditions, all that. I mean, I always tell people the only price guide that matters is eBay's sold auction list, because price guide could say it's worth $100, but if everyone's paying $10 for it, it's not worth $100. So, really, I do have other dealers in the area that we will contact occasionally if it's like a really expensive collection or something that's it's a little bit on the weird side. It's possible that there could be.
I think he's asking, do you go to these people or bring them to the store? Do you call up these dealers and say, I got a guy down here, can you come down here? Oh wait, no, because it's not scripted.
Well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, like I said, it's just rare that we we get something that we need to verify.
Yeah, I mean, what's recently, what's the biggest thing you've gotten in the shop?
Nothing really. I mean, we picked up bigger collections, but no big items.
Yeah, no big sizable.
Yeah. No.
Because all that stuff's on eBay.
Yeah. Let's see. We go in here from the pronunciation guide here says said like Regis, but with a T. So I'm assuming it's actually Tegis.
Oh, Tegis.
Tegis.
I put the T on the right end.
Yeah. This is from Tegis. This is from a couple of weeks ago.
Wait, somebody's actually giving you the pronunciation of their name in an email?
Yeah.
Man, they know you.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of eyes here. So he says, hey, guys, I'm currently new to your podcast. Thanks to Ryan Scott from the Geekbox. Thank you, Ryan Scott from the Geekbox.
Do we have to thank him every time?
All
right.
You got to pay your dues. I wonder what we think. I wonder what you think about the Bone comic. Supposedly, it is currently in the works as 3-movie CGI series. Personally, I've always thought it would be a perfect fit for an animated or CG movie. It's one of my favorite comics I've ever read. I even own the 20-pound trade paperback. Damn, that thing is huge. Yes, it is. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the comics? What do you think about it being made into a movie or 3? And Charlie, you're a pretty big Bone fan.
Yeah, Bone is awesome.
I never actually finished the series. It was one of those. This is like so many books from the 90s where I was reading in single issues and it just kind of got back in my stack. And I'm like...
This is like your Stray Bullet.
I'm like, yeah, Stray Bullet is another perfect example, which I'm glad I bought that big hardcover, or that big omnibus that they did. And Bone, again, I need to pick up that one volume and actually finish. But it's one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, I read 20, 30 issues, and it kind of fell back in my stack, and now I'm sitting at this 700-page book, and I'm like, oh, that's...
Especially because you'd have to start back over.
Exactly. So, I mean, I know... It took a long time to finish. You read through the whole thing now? You read to the end? What's your end okay? I heard mostly positive stuff about the ending.
That's fine for me.
Okay, that's good.
I guess the best way to put this is I'm excited to see Bone getting moved forward in any way, shape, or form. Like the company that does those Walking Dead tales was doing Bone for a while. And
the video games, right?
They did like
Telltale?
they did like the first 2 books, I think, worth, and they're supposed to do the rest and didn't. So you get into sort of scenarios like that where will I be excited when a movie comes out or whatnot? Yes, I'll be excited, but I'll be much more excited when they get through a couple of movies and finish it rather than we did one and
Well, I mean, I haven't heard anything about the Bone movie in years. I have no idea if this is something.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is they're supposed to be doing new comics, if I recall.
Really?
Yeah.
I know Jeff Smith is doing an artist edition on Bone. Did it actually ship yet? Did that ever come out? I don't know if that ever did.
I know there wasn't there a kind of resurgence? Didn't they reissue
Scholastic
they did the single volume for the color edition.
Yeah, Scholastic bought the rights to Bone 8 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, and they republished them all in color in single issue volume, and then his company Cartoon Books has kept the softcover version in print of the black and white version.
Yeah.
I don't know if he sold to Scholastic. I don't think so. I think he just
probably like rights.
I think they just published the color single volume
because I know it's been middle school kids has it's been popular with middle school kids because my fiance's niece and nephew read the Bone books.
No, Bone is one of those comics that most of its sales are outside the traditional comic book stores and bookstores. Being a Scholastic book. Scholastic, for those that don't know, is a group of books aimed at children and younger kids, sold through school systems. So they're not going out on Amazon or our comic store and buying them. They're buying them through their schools.
Like I'm trying to think, did Goosebumps do that for a while?
All those kids' books.
I think when we were kids, it was like Encyclopedia Brown.
Sure, all that stuff was available. Yeah, and they would have. I mean, they would have other stuff too. They would sometimes have cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
But most kids, all the Shel Silverstein things like that, all those books sell through there, and there's no real tracking method for sales on those. So I guarantee you, Bone is one of those books that just sells millions of copies, but it's not reported in any sort of traditional sales medium.
Well, I know
so we don't know.
You get some sales from that Amulet series that's from Scholastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another Scholastic book. Yeah, and they've been doing a lot of graphic novels recently. So, as far as Bone actually being turned into movies, sure, that'd be awesome. I again, I don't believe it's going to happen at this point. It's been talked about for so long. If there's any update, apparently Jeff Smith, according to Charlie, announced more Bone at Comic-Con in 2013, but here we are coming up on Comic-Con 2014 and nothing. So that's the way of announcements. So thank you.
He didn't promise it would be right away.
Yeah. Yes, I will publish more Bone comics at some
another email
point.
Yeah.
One more email?
No, that's it. We're good.
We're done. We're ending on Bone.
Yeah, we're done. Always end on Bone.
Don't forget, we have the Comic Conspiracy Book Club selection, Toby selection, University Squared, The Angry Years.
I gotta read through that.
Yeah, I have to read through it too. Next week.
Yep. So next week we'll all be back for that.
Has the copy been returned?
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. We'll have much, much more to talk about next week. I think Charlie has the store copy, the reader copy.
I have a copy I grabbed from the shelf to buy that's sitting in my box.
Well, let us read it first before you take it home, because that's the last copy in the store. Yeah. Thank you all. Hopefully, most of the other guys will be back next week. I know Toby hurt himself, so I don't know. Hopefully, he's feeling better. The Comic Conspiracy is the name of this podcast. It's also not the website you go to. You go to geekbox.net. That's where you go to find this episode and all the previous episodes. As well as
go to the comicsconspiracy.biz.
Comicsconspiracy.biz, the retail store for this store here. You can go there and go download all these episodes. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz.
Does that still work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Is our digital retail store through Comixology. So you can go there and buy some digital comics. As of WonderCon, a short announcement during their Q&A session with Comixology was, a lot of stuff they can't talk about, but no plans for anything to change, no plans for discount structure to change. It's a separate company. It's just owned by Amazon. Sure. So there you go. Oh, and correction from last week, a correction from last week. I was completely under the assumption that Kickstarter is owned by Amazon. I'm totally wrong about that.
Oh.
It just uses Amazon Payment. I don't know. Maybe it's because it uses Amazon Payment, but I had something stuck in my head that Kickstarter was owned by Amazon. So that's my fault.
That's all right. I mean, most people get it misunderstood that half the websites in the world are owned by PayPal because,
Sure. So, yeah, I completely misunderstood that. I don't know where I heard that, and I kind of have been rolling around in my head for a while now, and I guess I'm completely wrong. So there you go. They just use Amazon payments. So
that's okay. The internet will always correct you.
Oh, they do. Every episode they do. Every episode. I just usually forget to bring it up. We're all on Twitter. I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock is Brock Sager. Charlie is Insanity in Chaos. The other boys, Omar is... Man, what's up, Omar? Come on. Come back, man. Stop playing basketball. Come back and record a podcast. Is Comics and Decline. Bryce, who should be here next week, is Larson Bryce on Twitter, and Toby's TobyXI. Brock's got conspiratobrock.com as well as his video reviews of the week. Go check those out. He will no longer be reading Green Lantern. It's off the read pile, I think.
No, it's not. It's off the pull pile. It's
off the pull pile.
On the read pile.
Okay. It's on the read pile.
Was pretty good.
Yeah, Sinestro was good though.
Okay, yeah.
I picked up Sinestro. I'm like, all right, all the other Lantern books are falling by the wayside.
So for all of you that have been telling Brock to stop buying Green Lantern, he has stopped buying Green Lantern. So there you go.
It's off my pull list. Oh, after the 30s. I got to hit that round number and then I'm done. So look on eBay for a set of these things.
Omar's got comics and Decline.com. Charlie has the Infinite Longbox podcast, as well as the Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension Doctor Who podcast at wandererin4d.com.
Yep.
You got it right. Woohoo!
Maybe throw an extra the in there somewhere, but I'm sure it's close enough. All right, guys. Thank you. We'll try not to spoil Game of Thrones going forward either. And we'll see everyone next week.
Hail Hydra.